got a primetime matchup in the Dome this Saturday. Syracuse takes on number 22 NC State. Tim Leonard, Adzima and Corey Spector here to break it all down. Guys, Syracuse trying to get bowl eligible for the first time since 2013 with the win. But surprisingly, that's not the top story going into this week. It's the quarterback situation after Eric Dungey got benched last week. So, Mike, you're Dino Babers. What do you do with the quarterbacks this week?
Tim, if I'm Dino Babers, I got to stick with my veteran. I got to stick with Eric Dungey. He's the senior. It's his team. He's been running this offense for the entire time Dino Babers has been at Syracuse. And if I'm Babers, you got to keep it that way. It's still his offense, and it's still his team. You got to stick with your veteran.
I completely disagree. I think you have to go to Tommy DeVito. He's proven through this time in the game so far against Florida State and now against North Carolina that he is the better quarterback. He elevates the team. Quite frankly, Eric Dungey does not. The offense with Eric Dungey has gotten stale. We saw it against Clemson. He didn't elevate them there. Against Pitt, he really struggled in the second half. And against North Carolina, he was just awful in the second half. Tommy DeVito came into the ball game through 3 touchdowns and limited action. I think it's Tommy DeVito's time to start for the Syracuse team.
This is clearly a very good NC State team, 5-1 coming into this matchup. So, Corey, what does Syracuse have to do to get it done?
I think you have to commit to the run early. You know, the strange thing about this Syracuse team is that Mo Neal has only gotten 25 carries in the past 3 games. Now, Mo Neal had double-digit carries in 3 of the first 4 games. Mike, what was Syracuse's record in the first 4 games?
I believe they were undefeated.
That's right. They were 4-0. So keep going with the ground. Now, admittedly, against NC State, they're a really good rush defense, 9th in the country against the run. But if you're going to have a young quarterback, a redshirt freshman quarterback like Tommy DeVito, you're going to need some help in the run game. Even if you do start Eric Dungey, though, he's a little rattled. His emotions are a little shaken up. I think you need to commit to the ground game. Even if you get just 3-4 yards per carry, you have to stick with it. And you look at last week, Clemson against NC State, 32 carries for 91 yards. Not the greatest output, but they ran the ball enough to keep Trevor Lawrence comfortable within the pocket. So I think Syracuse has to commit to the run.
All right, well, Corey, that's very good. But I'm going to switch to a more defensive perspective from my key to the game. It really comes down to getting pressure on Ryan Finley for that Syracuse defense. Finley is one of the top quarterbacks in the country. NC State's just a quarterback factory, and he's the next product they're turning out. NC State offensive line has only allowed 3 sacks so far this year, and 2 of those came last week at Clemson, and Clemson has an elite defense that Syracuse obviously just not on that level. Finley has 4 300-yard passing games this year, and really he's just a field general out there under center for the Wolfpack. So if Syracuse can get pressure on him and force him into making some bad decisions, he has shown that he can kind of fold a bit when he gets under pressure, so that's a big key for the Syracuse defense.
Yeah, Finley likely to be a first-round pick in next year's NFL draft. All right, guys, the time we've all been waiting for. Will Syracuse finally get that elusive 6th win?
I'd love to say yes here, Tim, but unfortunately, I got to pick NC State in this one. I got the Wolfpack winning it in the Dome, 35-27. Andre Cisco versus NC State's Harmon, a wide receiver matchup versus corner, is a huge matchup when it comes to Syracuse's defense. Andre Cisco, he was really hot at the beginning of the year. He hasn't had an interception since the UConn game. And NC State, they allow over 100 yards on the ground. You mentioned getting the ground game going early. They allow on average over 100 yards rushing to opponents this year. So if Syracuse can get Mo Neal and get Strickland going in this one, it could really help the Orange keep this one close. But I think Ryan Finley commands that NC State offense and pushes them to win late in this game.
I agree that it's close. I disagree about the result. I'm going to take Syracuse in this one, 30-28. Tim, I do think they get that elusive 6th win. And just frankly, I'll put it pretty simply. Syracuse is better than they were last year when they lost to NC State, and NC State is worse than they were last year. Talk about guys like Bradley Chubb. 2 sacks against Syracuse last year. He's not there. He was drafted to the NFL. Nyheim Hines had 100 yards rushing. He's not there. He's now on the Indianapolis Colts. I think this Syracuse team is much better. And you talked about if the game is close. Well, you look at NC State, their kicker, Christopher Dunn. He's 8 of 11 so far this year. Respectable. He only has 1 made kick from 40. He doesn't even have an attempt from 50. Meanwhile, for Syracuse, Andre Smith has just been fantastic. 18 of 20 so far this year. He's had 3 50-yard field goals. So I think the field goal game could be impactful in this game, and that's why I think Syracuse pulls it out in the end.
All right, we got 1 Syracuse, we got 1 NC State. We'll see which one of you is right. Syracuse and NC State coming up. That'll do it for Cuse Countdown. For Corey Spector and Adzima, I'm Tim Leonard. We'll see you next time.